Millionaire, shocked to hear truth about his lost daughter from Black Beggar. The city stopped dead in its tracks. A filthy boy, no more than 16, sitting in the shadow between towering skyscrapers, suddenly became the center of a scandal too wild to believe. David, just a kid with dirt-smudged hands and eyes like dark pools, spoke words that sent shockwaves through New York's richest circles. He told a secret about Isabella, the vanished heiress of Henry Blackwood, one of the wealthiest and most notorious businessmen in the city. The story exploded online after a shaky phone video captured their strange meeting on a rain-drenched street. The clip showed David, wrapped in a threadbare jacket, shaking, hands with Isabella outside a run-down deli. Their faces were tense, somewhere between fear and relief. What stunned everyone wasn't just that this homeless boy knew Isabella, it was what he said. Whispered with shaky confidence, David claimed Isabella was not a runaway or a lost cause. She was in danger. And David, he was the only one who could protect her. The video went viral overnight. Headlines screamed about a black beggar, holding the key to a billionaire's family mystery. Polls flooded social media. Was David a hero or a threat? Fears of kidnapping exploded. Police swarmed. Reporters crowded the block. Cameras flashed in the cold. Henry Blackwood, known for his cold glare and sharp suits, tweeted a furious denial. "These baseless allegations are absurd," he wrote. But behind closed doors, the old man sat haunted. The memory of Claire, his late wife who devoted her life to sheltering broken kids, loomed like a shadow that wouldn't fade. Henry's chest tightened every time he thought of his daughter's disappearance, the silence that swallowed his home. Now, this boy, David, was rattling everything. David felt trapped. His hands trembled as people shouted questions he couldn't answer. The weight of finger-pointing stung like a slap. Kidnapper, scam artist, why does the rich man's daughter talk to a homeless boy? Jaws clenched around him. He wanted to run, but something inside held him back. Meanwhile, Isabella's own story twisted like a storm. Estranged from her father, she had slipped through the cracks of wealth and want. She needed help and found it in the unlikeliest place, a kid forced to survive the grit and cruelty of the streets. David's heart pounded when Henry unexpectedly invited him into a mansion so vast it felt like stepping into a different world. A world of cold marble and shiny silence, so far from the broken sidewalks he called home. Henry's eyes, sharp yet distant, met David's with an unreadable mix of suspicion and something softer. Maybe guilt, maybe hope. Together they sparked an idea, a sanctuary dedicated to Claire's memory. The Claire House, a place for lost kids, like David and Isabella, to find shelter. But as plans took shape, dark whispers started to rise. Secrets about Claire's past, hidden ties that could tear everything apart. David found himself chasing shadows, unraveling clues that might destroy the fragile bond forming between him and Henry. Could this boy from the streets really change the life of a titan? Or would the weight of truth shove them apart just when they needed each other most? The streets whispered, the mansion watched, and somewhere between hope and fear, a truth waited to explode. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. A lot of subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at that red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any of the exclusive content coming your way. And while you're here, hit that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. David stood in the heart of Henry Blackwood's mansion, where elegance dripped from every corner. Cold marble floors beneath his worn shoes felt like a world too far from the alleyways he had known. Henry's gaze bore down on him, a storm of emotions battling behind those steely eyes. They were about to talk, their plans for Clare House crackling like electricity in the air. But before they could settle into the delicate dance of conversation, the front door swung open. A gust of wind howled through the entrance, rattling the chandelier. In stepped a woman, drenched from the rain, her wild hair framing a face that was both familiar and foreign. It was Isabella. Her eyes widened at the sight of David, and for a moment, silence enveloped the room. Then, she took a step forward, and the tension fractured like glass hitting the floor. "David, you shouldn't be here," panic-laced, her voice, pushing her words out in sharp bursts. "What do you mean?" David's heart sank as he read the fear etched on her face. Before he could finish, voices surged from behind Isabella. A group of men stormed in, wearing dark suits as slick as oil. They surrounded her, eyes glued to David, their expressions dark and unreadable. "Isabella, you need to come with us," one of them ordered, his tone chilling. "No, I won't go!" Isabella's voice cracked, and David felt every word wrapping around his heart like chains. "You can't take me!" "Please, Isabella." The man stepped closer, his presence looming. "You know what's at stake." "What's going on?" David asked, his voice barely more than a whisper. One of the men turned his eyes to David, a sneer creeping across his lips. "You have no idea what you've gotten yourself into, kid." Then suddenly, without warning, Isabella turned to Henry, desperation flooding her features. "You know, don't you? You've known all along." David's confusion twisted deeper. "What? Isabella, what do you mean?" But before she could explain, the air thickened with tension. A low rumble echoed from the ceiling, vibrating the walls of the mansion. The lights flickered, then plunged into darkness. Panic roared among the men. "Get her! Don't let her out!" Their voices shouted, but chaos broke loose as shadows danced wildly against the walls. David's heart raced. He saw Isabella, illuminated by the faint light of lightning outside, her eyes pleading. "David, please," she cried. "You trust me, don't you?" In that moment, an explosion of sound drowned her out. Glass shattered, and a loud bang shook the very foundations of the mansion. The front doors flew open, and a figure rushed in, silhouetted against the storm. David's breath hitched as the figure moved closer. The light from outside, casting a glow that revealed a familiar face. It was Claire, the woman they thought was gone. "Get away from her," she shouted, her voice fierce, cutting through the chaos like a knife. Shock settled in, freezing everyone in place. David's heart stuttered, brain scrambling to process the impossible sight. "Mom?" Isabella's gaze darted between Claire and David, her fear now mixed with disbelief. "What? How?" Get back, Claire barked again, eyes fire. Just like that, the weight of everything shifted. Secrets, lies, and hidden identities hung thick in the air. The sanctuary they dreamed of seemed to collapse. In that instant, David felt the ground shift beneath him. What had he known? What had he uncovered? And what other truths lay waiting to tear apart everything he'd built? David was trapped in a swirling storm of uncertainty, fear tightening his chest. The mansion felt like a cage, shadows whispering truths that threatened to change everything. No escape, no answers, just a confusing path ahead, leading him deeper into darkness. David's heart thundered. The figure of Claire loomed against the chaos. Those piercing eyes, so familiar yet foreign, filled him with a storm of disbelief. Was this real? Could it be? Isabella's mouth moved, but the words faded into the background. The men surrounding her hesitated, eyes darting between Claire and Henry, debating their next move. David felt frozen, helpless. "Mom?" The words slipped from his lips, a desperate plea for clarity. "Move!" Claire shouted, her presence electric with authority. She stepped forward, every bit the fierce protectress. The men shifted, instinctively wary under their tailored suits, like wolves confronted by a lioness. "I won't let you take her," Claire growled, determination etched in her features. But the panic in Isabella's eyes grew more intense. "What do you know, Claire?" she demanded, fear cracking her voice. "Why are they after me?" Before Claire could answer, an unexpected sound sliced through the noise. A sharp crack. A gunshot? David's heart lurched. The men tensed, all eyes glancing toward the source of the sound. Then the room erupted in chaos. David ducked, instinct kicking in. Shadows danced wildly as the lights flickered once more. He saw Isabella's face, wide with horror. But there was something else behind her eyes. Something deeper. "Who was that?" one of the men shouted, fear creeping into his voice. As they scanned the darkened corners of the opulent entrance hall, "Get out! Now!" Claire yelled, pushing Isabella toward the back entrance. But Isabella hesitated, torn. "Claire, wait!" she cried. "What did you hide from me? And who are they?" Suddenly, the front doors burst open again. The wind howled inside, carrying a chilling, menacing presence. A tall figure strode in, silhouetted against the storm, hair slicked back, an easy confidence radiating from him. His appearance was startlingly familiar. "Henry," the newcomer called, his gaze locking onto the tycoon. "It's time we ended this charade." David felt his world tilt again. Who are you?" he whispered, stepping closer, heart racing. The man revealed himself, stepping into the dim light, a smug smile on his lips. "I'm Jason, Henry's son." Gasps erupted. David's jaw dropped, realization crashing over him. This was Henry's secret, the shadow behind the fortune. Jason waved his hand dismissively, and David sensed an unsettling chill. "You've kept a good secret, Dad," he said, voice thick with disdain. "But secrets only last so long, and I need what's mine." "Yours?" Isabella echoed, confusion mingling with distress. "What does that mean?" "Everything." Jason grinned, eyes blazing with ambition. "Isabella is part of a game far bigger than you know, and now it's your turn to play." The panic escalated, the walls almost closing in. David's mind raced. Everything felt ripped apart. Relationships shattered, Old bonds cracked. Suddenly, Claire's voice cut through the tension. A shrill scream. "No, you can't! You don't understand the risks!" But Jason only laughed. A cruel sound like thunder. "Oh, I understand perfectly." As anger and confusion swirled in the room, David felt something crack open inside him. Could his mother really be part of all this? In that instant, something hard and sharp shot through his chest. He'd stumbled into a dark scheme, far deeper than he ever imagined. A sanctuary? A family? It all felt like smoke now, dissolving right before his eyes. With all that swirling around, one question reverberated in his mind. What other secrets lay hidden in the shadows? Waiting to be uncovered, waiting to tear them apart even more. David stood frozen, memories crashing against him like waves. Claire was alive, his mother, the woman he thought was lost forever. But in the midst of this joy, the chaos intensified. Jason's smug smile turned into a fierce scowl as his eyes burned into David. "What did you say?" Isabella's voice trembled, confusion veiling her fear. "More lies? What does this mean for us?" Ignoring her, Jason's focus remained on Claire. "You never should have returned, Mom," he spat, each word steeped in venom. "You had your chance, and you blew it. Now, you'll pay." Through the panic, David felt something shift inside him. Pay for. "What?" he shouted, desperation creeping into his tone. "Who are you really?" Suddenly, the lights flickered again and then stabilized, illuminating the scene. David's heart raced. Was he really ready to learn the truth? "Only the one who can bring it all down," Jason sneered, glancing around the opulent mansion, eyes filled with dark ambition. "Isabella holds the key to everything, and with Mom back in the picture, it's game on." "But I'm not a prize to be won!" Isabella yelled, eyes blazing with defiance. "I won't be your pawn!" Claire stepped forward, fierce and protective. "You don't know what you're dealing with, Jason. This isn't just a game for me, or for her. These are lives at stake." Then a final twist ripped through the room. The chandelier above them shattered, raining glass like a storm. Shards flew everywhere. Screams erupted, and chaos engulfed the air. The men encircling Isabella reflexively recoiled, eyes wide with shock. In that split second of distraction, Claire grabbed Isabella's arm. "We have to go, now!" And they bolted toward the rear, the doorway behind them beckoning like salvation. But David was rooted to the spot, the enormity of it all crashing down. "Wait, where are you going?" Struggling to comprehend the new reality, he watched as they reached the door, but Jason intercepted them, eyes blazing. "You think running will save you?" he roared, his voice a menacing echo. "You're trapped in this mess like the rest of us." Just then, a heavy thud sounded from the back of the mansion. The wall cracked, dust falling like ash. What now? The tension felt electric, the air thick with dread. David glanced at Jason, wondering if maybe this was all a part of something bigger, something sinister lurking beneath the surface. "Don't let them escape," one of the men shouted, urgency pouring from him like sweat. David took a step back, his heart pounding. What is happening? But what came next would change everything. As the wall crumbled, a hidden passageway revealed itself. The secrets lurking underground, finally exposed. Jason's expression flickered between surprise and excitement. "Now that's interesting," he said, stepping toward the opening. Guess it's time for a family reunion. The ground beneath David felt unstable, truths surfacing that could drown him. As fear twisted in his gut, he glanced back at Claire. "Mom!" She turned. Desperation mingled with resolve. "David, don't follow us. You need to stay out of this." But all David felt was the pull of the unknown. Questions swirled in his mind. Who could be waiting in that darkness? What would each revelation cost them? Caught between fear and the need for answers, David felt his feet move toward the way forward. What lay ahead was a darkness he never expected, shrouded in secrets so deep that they could unravel everything. And just as he stepped closer, a figure emerged from the shadows of the passageway, eyes gleaming with a truth that could turn their world upside down. David's breath caught, the air heavy with the weight of everything he thought he knew. What had he uncovered? What would they face? And as the figure stepped into the light, panic clawed at him. The ground shifted. The story shifted. And in the heart of that storm, nothing would ever be the same. David stood on the threshold of the hidden passageway, his heart pounding as the figure stepped into the light. The face was strikingly familiar, yet an eerie haze wrapped around. Those features blurring the line between reality and nightmare. It was another woman, drenched, just like Isabella. Claire? David's voice cracked, hope and dread warring in his chest. But then he noticed her eyes, familiar yet haunting. They were not the same. These eyes reflected something deeper, something more sinister. "Mom?" The word escaped him, an instinctive plea. The woman took a step closer. "No, David," she said, but her voice drifted, pulling away from any ties of affection. "I'm not who you think I am." Confusion spiraled through the room, everyone frozen, caught in that hair-raising moment. Jason's smug grin faltered, surprise washing over him. "What do you mean? You're supposed to be dead?" She shot back, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. "They thought so, but I learned how to hide in the shadows, just like you, Jason." The room swayed with shock. David's mind raced. Who was this woman? The tears he had been holding back threatened to spill over as the world around him twisted into chaos. The words, "Not who you think I am," struck him like a dagger, digging deep into the heart of everything he believed. What?" Isabella stammered, fear creeping into her voice. "What is happening?" But the other woman, this imposter, stepped forward, confidence radiating from her. "Isabella, it's time you learned the truth. All of it." The air felt thick with tension. David watched helplessly as Isabella's face shifted from confusion to horror. "What do you know about me?" she demanded, a quaver betraying her anger and fright. Before anyone could answer, a low rumble echoed from the hidden passageway. The floor shook slightly, sending dust swirling into the air. "It's too late," the woman said, glancing back toward the growing darkness of the passage. "There are forces at work that you don't understand." Jason scoffed, but uncertainty bubbled underneath his bravado. "You're not going to play games with me, Mom. I've been waiting for too long to put this family back together." "I'm not your mother," she yelled, the words tearing through the room like a knife. "I was a pawn in this game, just like you. Just like David, Isabella. You both have no idea how deep it goes." David felt his heart plunge. He wished he could rewind time. wished he could unhear everything that churned the air around him. Why? Who are you really? In that split second, the real Claire stepped into the lantern glow. Eyes wide, horror draped across her face. No, it can't be you! Anguish twisted Claire's features, her voice cracking as emotions surged. The woman smirked. But it is, darling, and you've only scratched the surface of this tangled web. David's gaze flicked between the two women, shock gripping him like a vice. What do you mean? Family secrets, David, the woman continued, her voice layered with mockery. This isn't just about money, it's about legacies, bloodlines, destinies intertwined in ways you can't imagine. Something inside David snapped. The revelations echoed, leaving only confusion and despair hanging in the air, thick enough to choke on. What? What's going to happen now? Everything, the woman said, her voice low and dripping with malice. You're all part of a game much bigger than you realize, and it's finally time to play. As panic exploded among them, David felt the ground shift beneath him once more. Secrets born of betrayal, lies woven through years, circled back like predators waiting to strike. Isabella's fingers tightened around David's arm, her eyes wide, shining with unshed tears. We have to get out of here, right now. But Jason stepped closer, eyes glinting with a calculating light. No one's going anywhere until we deal with the truth. And trust me, the truth is about to shatter everything. David's heart raced as shadows loomed in the passageway, swirling threats ready to emerge. He felt the weight of every unspoken word, every revelation ready to shatter their fragile reality. As the tension reached a breaking point, the darkness swallowed the light behind him, revealing an unseen figure lurking just out of sight. A figure that could rewrite all their destinies. The unknown lurked, waiting to take its toll on everything they thought they knew. And in that moment, David realized that the game had only just begun. David stood at the edge of the hidden passageway, adrenaline shooting through him. The woman who had just stepped forward was undeniably familiar, yet twisted in ways he couldn't comprehend. Jason's confident facade faltered, revealing cracks of uncertainty. Enough of this, Jason spat, inching closer, his eyes narrowing. What truth do you speak of? Who are you? I'm Claire's shadow, Jason. The woman smirked, eyes flickering like flames. You're right about secrets, but you forgot one key part. What are you talking about? Isabella snapped, her voice tight with fear, gripping David's arm. The woman took a deep breath, exuding a wild energy that crackled in the air. It's not just about you or your precious family. She gestured toward Claire. You've lived your life thinking you knew everything. But you're wrong. As tension hung thick like fog, the ground trembled beneath them again. David felt his heartbeat quicken. The world was closing in. Then, unexpectedly, a horrific crash erupted behind the supports of the hidden passage. The wall cracked open, revealing blinding light mixed with swirling shadows. A figure emerged, tall, cloaked in darkness, face obscured. David could barely breathe. Who's that? No! Claire's voice sliced through the chaos. Not now! You shouldn't be here! But it was too late. The figure stepped into the light, revealing a face that sent shivers through David. A face he had known all his life, but never truly understood. Surprise, Claire, the figure said, voice soft yet laced with menace. It's time for the game to begin again. Dad? David gasped, heart collapsing. He took a step back, breath hitching. The man who had been a ghost in his life was now resurfacing, flooding memories. The memories of dinners alone, birthdays forgotten. You're back? There were gasps around him, shock painting the room, echoing in the air. You never left, Claire whispered, almost in despair. You promised. A laugh, bitter and low, slithered into the chaos. Promised? There are no promises in this game. He looked around, dark eyes gleaming with purpose. You have no idea the lengths I went to keep you both safe, or the sacrifices that drove me underground. David's world spun. The walls he had built around his fragile understanding of family were cracking apart. Safe? You left us. Mom thought you were dead. Dead? A convenient story, sure, he retorted, voice icy. I was doing what I had to do. To protect you. To protect all of us. What does that even mean? Isabella shouted, shaking her head. You're just grasping at excuses. But the shadows of the past clung to David. He turned to his mother, desperate for clarification. Mom, is this true? Claire's hands trembled, tears pooling in her eyes. David, I didn't want to believe it. I tried to distance myself from the darkness. Now you have no choice, Claire, the man said, stepping closer, voice thick with emotion. The truth is out. We're in deep, and it won't let us go. David felt as if the ground had opened beneath him. The chaos spun in circles, secrets spiraling bolder now. What truth? What did you do? Everything has a cost, my son, his father said, with a hint of sadness. And this war, it's just beginning. The tension crackled in the air, a storm ready to break. David's heart raced as the implications sank in. The looming figure of his father and the return of all these hidden truths felt like thunder rumbling overhead. Would he be strong enough to face whatever lay ahead? As the room held its breath, a sense of impending doom surged through him. He felt caught in a web of shadows, as the weight of his last lingering questions loomed larger than ever. And just then, in the silence that followed, a scream erupted from the hallway outside, a sound so stark and raw that it shattered everything. It made David's heart drop. What now? What had he unknowingly unleashed? Everything was shifting again, and the rules were changing, fast. David stood frozen, heart racing, as the haunting figure in front of him, the familiar stranger, drew closer. Jason's tense silence broke as confusion enveloped the room, tension edging on madness. The scream from outside pierced through the chaos again, loud and raw, echoing like shattering glass. David's stomach dropped. Something horrible was happening. What was that? His voice wavered, uncertainty creeping in. Stay close, Claire shouted, her eyes darting between Jason and the shadow of their father. Every second stretched with dread. Then the wall trembled again, but this time it shook with more than just dread. The hidden passageway split open wider, revealing flickering shapes moving within the darkness. A sea of blurry shadows rushing forth, eyes bright with malice. David's breath hitched as his mind screamed to run, to escape that stifling aura. Go, everyone, go, Claire cried, urgency flooding her voice. But even before David could move, the walls shuddered, and the shadowy figures poured out, some snarling like wild animals, others hunched low as if ready to pounce. It was a mob, not just one or two, an avalanche spilling into their space, hungry for chaos. "Run!" Isabella cried, her grip tightening on David's arm. He didn't even know where to turn. The sound was chaos. Shouts of terror, the rattle of footsteps, furniture crashing to the ground. Instinct kicked in. David's heart raced as he felt the urge to flee. "No!" Jason's voice cut through the din, desperate and frantic. "You're not taking her." The mob surged, and their leader, a figure cloaked in a dark mantle, stepped to the front, lifting a hand to silence the roar. The air thickened, a heavy cloud of dread settling over everyone. "Enough!" the leader's voice boomed, rich and deep. Suddenly, he ripped the hood from his face, revealing a familiar countenance that left David's blood running cold. It was his mother. No, another version of her. Someone twisted and dark. Her gaze was locked onto Claire, a smirk curling her lips. "Did you miss me?" she sneered, voice dripping with sarcasm. "I don't understand." David's words tumbled out, panic rising in his chest. "Mom, is this? It's all connected." "David," the woman sneered, "little puppet, does this shock you? This is not just a game, it's a legacy." The realization hit him like a train. His heart raced, clawing at the sanity left over. Was she really his mother? Or had everything just shattered? He glanced at Claire, who looked utterly lost. "What do you want?" Claire's voice quavered with rage and disbelief. "You've haunted us for years. Why now?" The dark version of his mother laughed, the sound echoing through the hall. "Because your beloved game of family has turned sour, and I've come to collect my dues." Nobody moved. The air froze, heartbeat loud. David felt the world narrowing, secrets peeling back their thin masks. But one thing was clear. The woman he thought he knew was a stranger, and everything he had built was crumbling. It was a sickening twist that left him hollow, every bond shaking at its core. And just when David thought clarity might return, the Shadow Mother pointed straight at him, eyes ignited with a fierce glow. "You're the key, David. The real game starts now, and it requires your complete surrender." A chill swept through the room, hearts pounding in unison, questions piled up beneath the weight of those words. Suddenly, the truth of it all felt unbearably heavy. What did surrender even mean? And who would he become if he accepted this darkness? Caught in a storm of chaos, David felt everything pulling apart, lives teetering on the brink. The shadows loomed larger as the room echoed with unrelenting uncertainty. And in that moment, David realized everything he thought he understood was about to shift again, and he might be the very center of it all. The looming storm had arrived, and all that mattered now was how deep its roots ran. David's heart pounded, the weight of uncertainty and fear pressing down on him like a heavy fog. The room seemed to shrink as that woman, his mother's shadow, whispered truths that tore at the very fabric of what he thought he knew. Jason's face twisted in anger, but there was something deeper in his eyes, a flicker of fear. Then came another scream echoing from the hallway, raw and guttural. David flinched, the sound slicing through the tension thick as molasses. He thought he could feel the air shift, something terrible approaching. "Now!" the dark woman shouted, and everyone shifted, eyes wide, fear rattling the walls. You think this is bad? You have no idea. Then it happened. A figure burst through the doorway, face hidden beneath a hood. As it stepped into the light, gasps filled the room. Or maybe it was silence, deafening, yet ringing in his ears. The figure pulled back the hood, revealing a familiar face. It was his younger sister, Mia, the sister that had disappeared years ago, the one everyone thought had been lost forever. Mia? David's voice cracked, disbelief paralyzing him. But how? Why? His mind raced, searching for understanding. David! Mia's eyes were wide, frantic. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for you to find out like this. She swayed, visibly shaken, as the tension in the room spiraled out of control. Mia! Claire stepped forward, her voice trembling. Where have you been? We thought you were missing? Dead? Mia's laughter was hollow, filled with something darker. It's worse than you think. I'm not who you think I am either. David felt a cold chill creep up his spine. He was slipping further into a reality where everything was unraveling. What do you mean? The family lines, they're not what they seem, Mia said, her voice rising, filled with a wild urgency. I only came back because I had to warn you about the darkness chasing us. What darkness? Isabella's voice broke in, confusion and fear blending as she gripped David's arm tightly. It's all connected. Our parents, the money, the power. We're just pawns in a game designed so much bigger than us. Mia stepped into the room, eyes darting between Claire and the shadow woman, who seemed to smirk at Mia's confession. Claire shook her head. No, this can't be true. Believe it, Mia stemmed the wave of panic. I was held captive. They've been watching us, manipulating everything. David's mind reeled. He remembered when Mia vanished, the confusion, the heartache. Who took you, and why come back now? But before she could answer, the room shook again. The walls rattled, dust raining down like tiny explosions. Get out, everyone out, Claire shouted, and a sudden surge of urgency pushed David to act. But not before the shadow woman advanced, laughter spilling from her lips. Oh, sweet Mia, you think you understand. You'll never know the truth. Your place in this family is already sealed. What the hell does that mean? David roared, heart racing. Mia faltered, confusion flashing across her features. I wasn't supposed to be here. I wasn't ready. It's all my fault. In an instant, the room turned chaotic. Shadows shifted and lunged towards them. Claws gripped at the edges of reality, pulling at David's sanity, his family's past awash in uncertainty. He stumbled back, caught between fear and disbelief. Just then, Mia screamed, her voice tearing through the noise. Run! They're coming for you! But before they could even move, the dark shadows lunged together, swallowing everything in their path as the scream blended with the chaos of uncertainty. David's breath caught in his throat. What if everything he believed was a facade? What if Mia, the family, even his memories were forged in lies? The chaos consumed the room, and as they scattered in every direction, David felt the cold grip of fear clutch his heart, drowning in an abyss of questions with no answers. Nothing would ever be the same again. And as they rushed toward escape, David couldn't shake the feeling that some truths weren't meant to be uncovered. What awaited them in the shadows? What parts of their family were real? And as the darkness closed in, he knew nothing was certain. Not even their bonds could stand against the enormity of the secrets that sought to bury them all. David stood, his heart racing, as shadows swirled around him. The fear and uncertainty clung to him like a thin mist, wrapping around his chest tight. Enough to make it hard to breathe. Mia's frantic eyes pierced through the chaos, reflecting his own panic. "We have to move," she shouted, tugging at his arm, fear tangible in her grip. The darkness edged closer, its presence thickening the air, shadows swallowing the corners of the room. "We're trapped," Isabella cried, her voice laced with terror. David could almost hear her heart pounding alongside his, a testament to the rising dread that consumed them all. Just then, the walls shook violently, dust raining down like snowflakes in a storm. With a loud crack, the ceiling fissured, giving way to a flurry of chaos. A deep growl rumbled from the shadows, a sound that sent shivers racing down David's spine. The figures surged forward, driven by some unseen force, mouths twisted into snarls, eyes glinting with malice. "Run!" Claire screamed. Without thinking, they bolted toward a door at the end of the hall, footsteps echoing loudly, panic sharpening their senses. And then, with a sudden snap, everything froze. A deafening silence fell, heavy and suffocating. Just as quickly, it shattered like glass, a blinding light erupting from the hidden passageway. The shadows recoiled, a strange energy pushing back against their advance. David squinted, shielding his eyes from the brightness. Then he saw it, a man stepping confidently into the room, surrounded by a halo of light. It was an image straight out of a nightmare, yet somehow familiar. David's breath caught in his throat. "No, it can't be." "Hello, David," the man said smoothly, his voice echoing around the stunned room. It was the unmistakable voice of his father, the man everyone believed to be dead. But this wasn't a warm reunion. It dripped with something darker. "No, you're not real," David gasped, shaking his head in disbelief. But his father's smirk grew wider, eyes filled with a chilling mixture of warmth and malice. "Oh, I'm very real, my boy," he said, stepping closer, shadows clinging to his form. "And I've missed your mother, and you." "What have you done?" Claire whispered, her face pale, eyes wide. "Done? Oh, dear Claire." He lifted a hand, a twisted grin spreading. "I've opened doors that should have remained closed. You see, I didn't bury the past, I harnessed it." A shocked silence enveloped them, cold and unforgiving. This revelation slammed into David like a freight train, knocking the breath from his lungs. All the secrets, were they true? Everything he knew about his family lurched on the edge of a dark precipice. Mia's voice broke the silence. "You used us. You were never dead. You've been manipulating everything from the shadows." David turned to her, momentarily stunned, confusion swirling. But the truth slammed home with every heartbeat. "What do you mean?" And just then, a loud sound reverberated. Through the air, a thunderous crash. The remaining support pillars buckled, the floor trembling beneath them. An icy realization struck him. The mansion wasn't just falling apart. It was coming alive. "Dad!" David shouted, heart racing. "You have to stop this." But the man's laughter echoed coldly, the sound weaving through the chaos like a chilling melody. "You think I control it? No. The darkness has its own will. It doesn't bend, it breaks." And then that shattering light erupted again, illuminating the room in a blinding flash. David shielded his eyes, fear gripping him. Where had this darkness come from? What was it? Beneath this chaos, secrets began unraveling. Claire's face twisted in despair, and even Jason seemed to recoil. "You're not our ally," he spat. "You're the one we should fear." "Fear?" his father mocked, stepping forward, the atmosphere around him pulsating like a living entity. "You talk of fear, yet you don't comprehend the real power in the secrets I hold." Everything shifted in an instant. Time felt suspended. David glanced around, eyes wide, heart racing, wondering if he was truly in the presence of a devil disguised as his father. But what came next shattered the frail reality of their world even more. A figure emerged, veiled in shadow, their eyes glinting like shards of broken glass. And then, with chilling clarity, the figure spoke. "You forgot about me, Father, but I've always been one step ahead." In that moment, the truth crashed down like bricks. David staggered, limbs trembling as the familiarity of the voice hit him. Who are you?" he choked out, locking eyes with the newcomer, who seemed to unravel the very fabric of their lives. But before anyone could grasp this new reality, the figure stepped into the light, revealing a simmering truth that twisted and tangled their fates into an unbearable knot. David's heart sank as he whispered in horror, "It can't be!" The room shook as the ground shifted beneath them once more. Everything started to fade into chaos, the boundaries between reality and nightmare blurring, until there was nothing left but an endless abyss and the chilling realization that no one was who they seemed. David's mind raced as his father's dark figure loomed closer. Everything felt like a surreal nightmare, reality slipping through his fingers like sand. "You've been here all along," he muttered, disbelief thick in his throat. "Mia!" Claire's voice was laced with pain as she looked at her daughter, helpless. "What have you done?" Mia shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I tried to warn you. I didn't know they would come. I didn't know." The shadow of their father let out a low chuckle. "Oh, but darling, you've always been part of the game. You just never understood how deep it runs." As the shadows twisted in anticipation, a flicker of light shone through. Jason stepped forward, shaking with fury. "No, I won't let this happen. You're not taking her." "Mistakes have already been made, Jason," their father said, a twisted smile adorning his lips. "And now, we have to face the consequences." The chaos surged again, the walls trembling under the weight of secrets and truths nobody wanted to confront. David's heart raced, fear clawing at his gut. "We need to get out of here!" he shouted. Suddenly, a thunderous roar echoed through the room. The very ground beneath them split open, revealing a swirling void. Dark figures began to claw their way through, hungry to consume everything in sight. "Run!" Claire screamed. David felt the ground shake beneath him as he bolted toward the exit, dragging Isabella and Mia behind him. Jason was close, shouting for them to keep moving. As they rushed through the halls, shadows lunged from the walls like hungry beasts. David's heart hammered, and adrenaline surged through him. "This way!" he yelled, veering down a narrow corridor. He felt Isabella's grip tighten as they ran, and the sound of chaos grew distant behind them. They burst through a door and stumbled into a dimly lit room filled with forgotten memories. Photos of their family lined the walls, laughter frozen in time. But no time to dwell on that. They had to escape. "Help me finish this," Mia shouted, her face a mixture of determination and fear. It's now or never. What do you mean? David gasped, trying to catch his breath. There's something we need to do to stop this, she said, moving toward a box hidden beneath an old table. David's heart raced as he caught a glimpse of what it contained. An old journal filled with their family secrets. This could change everything, she said, handing it to David. Just then, the shadowy figures began to close in around them, their distorted faces filled with rage. David felt Mia push everyone back toward the doorway. Go! I'll hold them off. Just get to safety. No way! David shouted, grabbing her arm. We do this together. Amidst the turmoil, a flicker of hope ignited inside him. They could unravel the secrets, face the storm together, if they just held on. Together, Isabella echoed, standing firm beside David. With a pulse of determination, they turned as one, wielding the family secrets, not as a curse, but as their weapon. The shadows shrieked as light filled the room, illuminating the old photos. The love they shared, despite the chaos, broke the darkness around them. Let's do this, David whispered, heart racing as he faced the oncoming dark. And then, in a blinding flash, everything shifted. The shadows recoiled, fear etched on their faces as the power of truth surged from the journal, sending out waves of light that consumed everything. As the darkness shrank away, David felt warmth flooding back, the ties of their family renewed. When the light faded, they found themselves outside, the moon shining overhead, but nightmare dissolving behind them like bad dreams. They embraced, breaths mingling with laughter at their escape. They could begin to heal. But what lingered in the air was not just relief. It was the question of how deep the roots of their family's darkness ran, and what other layers of secrets still lay hidden, waiting for them. Before the sunrise painted the horizon, they felt the weight of a new beginning hang in the air, a promise of the past not fully buried yet. Now, before you go, there's something you need to do. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the upcoming exclusive stories that will unravel even more mysteries. This is the moment to show your support. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this finale. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel with these actions. Your voice matters.